The 4 decades old Watergate scandal is getting a lot of attention these days thanks to real or imagined similarities to the ever-escalating allegations of alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Good morning. I'm Ed James and this is Black Almanac. Is it possible to work for Trump and remain an honest person? The White House communications staff routinely lies in service of the president. They say things that they either know to be untrue or have no knowledge of and present as truth only to be proved wrong. Political analyst Dr. Lawrence A. Miller joins today's discussion. Well, Dr. Miller, you know, you take a week or two off and and I don't know what you do. Do you go to Washington and stir it up?
Specifically, I go there, but even I couldn't come up with different things that they are dealing with today. It's crazy. You know,
I'd like to talk a little bit about this government by thuggery.
Yes.
The latest, and I know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The latest guy that they brought in is Anthony Scaramucci.
Yeah.
Now, they tried to bring him in to the Trump administration right after the transition.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the government Office on Ethics said he had some issues.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave someone else the job they had for him.
Yes.
And now we're told that he's going to be the White House's, head of the White House's communications office.
Yes.
And our former White House press secretary, as much as he tried,
Yes.
and much as he lied,
Yes.
and as often as he lied,
Sean Spencer.
he decided,
Spicer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he decided that this past week it was just time to go.
Yes. Even he couldn't put up with it.
Couldn't put up with it anymore. And then Mrs. Huckabee
President hires
was made the
various people.
permanent.
They're not always going to agree. There are going to be a lot of different ideas.
Having this moment.
Press secretary.
Press secretary. She gets to the point, and he insults her about how she looks. But she stays there as a good soldier.
Yes. I wonder how her husband Sanders feels about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, criticizing how his wife looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before the nation.
Before the nation. No tact, no diplomacy, you know.
But they continue to kiss the ring and profess their love for him. You know what that's called?
Insanity?
Conscientious stupidity. God. But there's so much for that.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the fight that's now become public between Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and Mr. Scaramucci, whatever his title may be. And it's interesting because the House Government Ethics Commission still has not given him the green light.
Yes.
But he's in the White House firing people.
Yes.
And threatening people.
Exactly. Say we're going to fire everybody until we find out who's doing the leaking. And this is what he accused Reince Priebus of, that he was the leaker, and that it's not his job to save everybody from Donald Trump.
Yes. Isn't that interesting?
And that's very interesting. And the fact that he would come in at all at this point, where an issue revolving around a company that he is involved with,
and trying to sell to China?
To China, yes. Yeah. It's mind-boggling to me that this would be the case as far as somebody who has the ear of the President of the United States.
Well, I have to believe that the President knows exactly what's going on.
And probably gave his permission for him to go ahead and do that, as far as Reince Priebus is concerned.
And Mr. the Mooch is a Wall Street banker, a former Wall Street banker, Goldman Sachs, I believe. And, you know, they talked during the campaign about how he loved America and everything that he was going to do for America in cleaning the swamp. The swamp is running over because they keep adding stuff to the swamp.
Toxic stuff to the swamp. Huh? It is mind-boggling. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If you were starting a television program and brought it to the powers that be and said, I'm going to have a program about the White House that brings in this president who has no government experience and is going to bring in a lot of his cohorts who have no experience, and they're going to just go ahead and fire everybody if they don't kiss the ring as far as he is concerned. And it's the policies that come out of this White House that's crazy too, because you can't understand what it is that they're going to do from one day to the next. He went ahead and tweeted about transgender people who are serving in the military. In the campaign, he says, I'm going to be the best friend of the LGBT community. And then he comes out just recently and says, oh,
Yeah,
no, you can't serve in any capacity.
Yeah, last Wednesday.
Yes.
And then when the press asked the newly crowned press secretary, what did she say? Oh, that was the decision of the generals. And then on Thursday of last week, the chief of staff, not the chief of staff,
The Joint Chiefs of Staff.
the Joint Chief of Staff's director
Yes.
was on vacation, and he heard about it in the news media.
Yes.
All the secretaries of the various different services, Navy, Army, Marine, they hadn't heard of it.
Right.
But isn't it interesting? He immediately, the Chief of Staff immediately made it clear. We don't know what this means. And until the president, we're going to keep on doing just exactly what we're doing.
Yes.
Now, he's saying this. We're going to keep on doing exactly what we're doing until the president tells us what he has on his mind.
Well, he told them what he has on his mind. He hasn't done it in a formal way where he's supposed to send these documents through to his generals, okay? Even his...
For review.
For review. And even his Secretary of Defense was blindsided by this because he's been working on this report that's that he started, I believe, in early part of July. That's a 6-month investigation into this issue of transgender soldiers and the issue of making that transition from one sex to another, and how much it's going to cost the Army or Navy or whoever it might be.
And should the military
and should the military pay for it. And all of a sudden, there's a tweet that nobody was anticipating from the president about this issue. It seems more like he was getting criticized by his base, especially on radio and television, about his conservative credentials. So now he throws this bone out to close that issue down so that he feels more emboldened to do some of the things that he feels he needs to do, especially as it relates to healthcare and the healthcare conundrum that they are facing right now because they can't get their act together.
Speaking of the healthcare conundrum, the president thought he needed to threaten the entire state of Alaska.
Yes.
Because Senator
Lisa Murkowski
was one of 7 senators who voted against his health care bill. Now, so he tells her that too bad, and he publicly ridicules her for doing that. But she decided, along with the other Senator Sullivan, I think at least Sullivan from Alaska, that no, you don't threaten us, and we are not afraid of you.
Exactly. And think about it. The health care bill that they rejected would have immediately thrown 17 million people off of their health insurance coverage. 32 million over 10 years. There hasn't been one bill that hasn't thrown millions of people off of their health care by either the House or the Senate.
Well, now, you know, some of them saying, well, maybe we should have the vote, you should vote for the bill that throws the least amount, the
Exactly.
smallest amount. What do you mean?
Exactly.
Everybody's concerned about their health care.
Exactly.
And the health care of their family and friends.
They should be building it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be how many people we can throw off. It should be how many more people can we bring on.
You know, they're making the best case for single pay a system for everybody,
Medicare for everybody.
or Medicare for everyone.
Exactly. Like the rest of the developed world has. You know.
Isn't that interesting?
It is, and it's shameful.
We talk about you got to have respect for America because we're the leaders of the free world. Well, America ain't looking so free anymore, and we're not doing too much of leading.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Where are we leading in? The one place where I could say, you know, we're leading in is in selling arms around the world. We sell more arms to more countries than the next 7 countries combined. Okay? But where are we when it comes to human development? Where are we as far as infant mortality is concerned? Where are we as far as literacy is concerned? Numeration, you know, mathematics. Where do we rank as far as those things are concerned? And it's not hard to find out this information because the government puts this information out. The CIA has a fact book that you can see all the different rankings of the nations around the world.
Now, you know, Trump watches Black Almanac. And so now he's going to say, no more books.
No more books.
No
Burn
more
them.
books. Burn them. God. You know, do you know what we're going back to?
I'm telling you, it's amazing. And, you know, he went to West Virginia and he went to, I believe it was Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. And he had crowds there. And that's all interesting because there are people in this country who still support President Trump. But the thing here is that 11 states, and even Indiana is one of them, 11 states.
Where does Vice President come from?
Where his vice president comes from, his poll numbers are down, okay, as far as his approval is concerned in those states that voted for him in 2016. I mean, in 2000, yeah, in 2016. 16.
Well, I look at now there's a big Asian company that's talking about coming to the U.S.
Foxconn, yeah.
Foxconn. Million employees
Yes.
overall. And so he had a big press conference to say, look what I have done. Now, it's interesting that he says, look what Trump, have done, because Foxconn also 3 years ago, they made a deal and promised, well, 3 years in 12.
Right.
That's more than 3 years ago. In 2012, they made a deal for another state. They never got there. But what it didn't tell you, that it's going to cost the state of Wisconsin $20 billion. And they're saying that they're guaranteed 13,000 employees. And even the company says, no, that's not the number. It's 3,000 employees. But when the math is done, that's $250,000 an employee. So what have you done?
Exactly.
And you, Mr. Trump, didn't do that.
Right.
That's the government where the House, that's the state where the House Speaker comes from. and good, bad, or otherwise, and Rice Previous,
Your chief of staff.
your chief of staff that you're trying to get rid of now, and they had been working on that for some time.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing here is that it reminds me of what happened with Carrier in Indiana.
Yes.
They said that they were going to save the jobs of those people, and those people lost their jobs. They said that in terms of this pipeline, that this Keystone Pipeline, was going to bring all these jobs. I don't see where these jobs have come into fruition.
And all of the pipes are going to be made in America.
You know,
Who's making them in America?
yeah. And the thing here is that we would like to believe that as far as prosperity is concerned, that people would have jobs in industries that have been suffering. I had the opportunity here recently. I went to Virginia, Roanoke, Virginia, and on my way from Roanoke to Hardy County, where the national monument of Booker T. Washington, the slave quarters where he was born, is housed. You roll through those hills and you see people living like you're in a third world country.
In squalor.
Yes. You know, and it's surprising to me because we're riding down the highway and we see a big sign up called Trump. And I'm wondering, when is this all going to kick in for these people in terms of the prosperity that he promised them? He's 6 months and
Overdue.
a week into this presidency. Where is it in terms of for them?
Well, it's the same place that the Republican Party is 7 years and 6 months into their promise to come up with an affordable care bill that would be better than Obamacare. And what they're trying to do is let Obamacare die.
Yes.
Because the insurance companies are not there, and they're not there because they don't know what the government's going to do or not do.
Or not do. And they are really upset about these last three that I mentioned to you about the House bill and the two that came from out of the Senate. They all said, no, this is going to, as far as the market is concerned, have a devastating effect. They haven't come up with one that they have the support of AARP or of the American Medical Association. I was listening to another show, individual talking to a member of Congress, asked them whether were people better off before the Affordable Care Act or after the Affordable Care Act. The person even showed them a poll that showed that most Americans now support the Affordable Care Act. And this member of Congress, who is a Republican, said, no, we were better off without the Affordable Care Act. Now, that to me is just crazy when you have over 20 some odd million people who have now gained health insurance.
There's that conscientious stupidity again.
Yes.
And I don't know what you can do. It's also interesting, the president's attorney general, his attorney general,
Yes.
the first member of Congress to support him when he was running for president, the one who supported him when there were Congress people who were saying anybody but Trump.
Exactly.
Now he wants to get rid of Jeff Sessions. And he's not manning up.
No.
And that's interesting. I think Lindsey Graham did it when he says the president needs to man up, see what he got to say, because all hell is going to break loose if they get rid of Sessions.
Stop stabbing him in the back. Stop publicly humiliating him and say that you want him to resign. Ask for his resignation. Show that you have some guts to be able to go ahead and speak to the man face to face and tell him that you don't want him as your attorney general.
And his reasoning is because he says he wants an attorney general that would have his back. I thought the attorney general's job was to have the back of America.
and follow the law of the
and
United
follow the law.
and follow the law. And it's been plainly put out there in terms of the reason why he had to recuse himself. He had to because he had been in, as you said, the Trump campaign. So how was he going to investigate something that he was involved in?
And is a part of the investigation.
And part of the investigation. But that doesn't make any difference to Trump. It's all about loyalty, and that loyalty is a one-way street. Because if he, based upon what we just got through saying here as far as Sessions' loyalty to him, when they had that big blow up about the bus interview where Trump was talking about grabbing a woman, okay, in her private parts, Sessions supported him. Now here it is, time for him to support Sessions, and he's really ready to throw him under the bus quick, fast, in a New York minute. So that loyalty issue seems to be a one-way street when it comes to Donald Trump. And what is it? It's all about him.
Another thing that's interesting, Breitbart news service, the place where Bannon came from, has told the president, you better be careful, talking about Sessions. Rush Limbaugh, one of his favorite people, was saying, the president is wrong for going after Sessions. And in reality, Sessions has been pushing the Trump agenda since he's been in office.
Exactly.
He's done everything Trump wanted to do and is afraid to say about immigrants.
And he's gone further. The sanctuary cities. He's threatening people as far as sanctuary cities are concerned. He's talking about getting rid of every reform that President Obama talked about. He's even talking about what they call asset forfeiture. Going ahead and giving localities the ability to use the federal rules and regulations to take people's assets when they haven't even been charged with a crime.
With a crime, yes. They make a decision that you are carrying too much money.
Exactly.
And so you must be a drug dealer.
Yes.
Now, if you want your money back, you got to prove that you're not.
In America, where you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
We're going to take your car, even though the dog sniffed it and we checked it, and there are no drugs found in it.
Yes.
But we really know that you haul drugs in that car.
And you haul drugs in that car because you on a road where we found other people who it's crazy.
And you look like a drug dealer.
Exactly. And this is what Sessions is doing. So it's not like he's veering from off of his agenda. No, he's taking his agenda and he's zooming through it. And what does he get in terms of return on that? Loyalty for his following Trump's agenda? I'm disappointed in him because he didn't have my back. He recused himself. Well, what did he expect him to do? In the face of illegality, if there is illegality, go ahead and say it's okay? Is he supposed to go ahead and fire Mueller?
And during his hearings, the question was asked, what would you do if you were asked by the President of the United States to do something illegal? Would you follow that?
Yes.
And he said no.
And he asked that same question of Loretta Lynch. Okay? So much so that it was brought back in his face about what he would do, like you just mentioned, as far as that situation is concerned. So now we get the chance to see, if he doesn't take the hint, what will Trump do? And if he does take the hint, will he step down? Okay? And what ramifications are there behind him stepping down? Because the Senate is very upset with how Trump is treating Sessions.
Well, we could not close this program without talking about Washington, D.C. attorneys. They're having a field day. The president's daughter has now lawyered up.
Yes.
And all of those 8 people from the meeting that nobody knew about, the secret meeting.
The secret meeting.
That was really about adoption. All the Americans have lawyered up.
Yes. Donald Jr., Manafort, Jared Kushner, who never read the memo that said quite clearly what this was all about.
Hey, Dr. Miller, there's more to come.
Have faith in it. And will.
Stay with us. I'll be back with some final thoughts. At the end of World War II, Joseph Stalin sought to retain for Russia control of Europe from East Germany onward. The goal was to establish the USSR as an alternative to the capitalistic democracies of the West. In Stalin's Union of Soviet Republican Socialists, religion was oppressed in favor of the primacy of the state, which was run by a despotic premier. The tenets of the Bible were replaced by the words of Marx and Lenin. The private right to own property was displaced by the communist doctrine that all means of production belong to the state. Smaller countries of Europe lacked the military capacity to resist the annexation of their countries into the USSR, but the U.S. maintained its authority over Western Germany. After World War II, the Russians built a wall between West and East Germany to prevent Western ideas from crossing the division line and corrupting the ideas of communism. On March 8, 1983, President Reagan gave a memorable speech in which he branded Russia as an evil empire. He cautioned the Western world not to turn away from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil. Some who remember the Cold War are shocked by Donald Trump's embrace of Russia and Vladimir Putin. While the good Cold War is theoretically ended, the philosophical conflict between Russia and its brand of communism and Western capitalism still persists. Clearly, Trump's connection is not philosophical. He has already demonstrated a willingness to discredit a major economic principle of the presidency, that the office will operate for the benefit of the individual, him, and not the people of the United States. Given the president's wealth and given Reagan's legacy, why has conservatives also abandoned that principle? One has to wonder, what else is for sale? For Black Almanac, I'm Ed James, and that's my final word. Have a great day, Suncoast.
We asked you, Suncoast, why do you like ABC 7?
I like ABC 7 because it's local.
It gives me all the local news, local weather.
It's so local and so community driven.
Kelly Wilgus does a great job.
John Scalzi, that's my guy.
Bob Harrigan is wonderful.
Stephanie's my favorite. I like Scott Dennis.
I like them all.
We're all very grateful that you cover what you do and you're here to participate with the community.
ABC 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.